Yeah, hell yeah.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to the podcast. Special guest here today, Chris Satterthwaite. Chris, brother, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been a long time. It's been a long time coming. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And today we wanted to talk about something that has affected a lot of people at any time in history, really. But I feel like these days, especially with COVID and people locked inside and maybe mental health not being at the absolute best, substance abuse has maybe been something that has been more of a concern these days. And I was just wondering, like, Chris, for you with COVID, have you seen maybe things have been like harder to get along with, or like harder to cope, having to be so isolated?
Yeah, well, I think for me personally, like just being so isolated and not really being able to get, like, we take it for granted so much that like just everyday common social experiences, like going to work and actually just being with, like, being around people is so important. So I think just the huge change that happened like last year, right? It was just like instant where everybody had to like just stay home all the time, and they were just like, you could not be like close to anyone at all, essentially, just because of that. So I think like depressions, like the depression rate, like it's been horrible. I mean, it's been on the rise for a while now, I think, because of like the internet, social media and all that stuff. And then something like this where it's just like it actually isolates people, I think it's just been horrible. And then obviously people cope, like substance abuse and stuff like that, and, it's like a combination of events where like you had that existing maybe mental health on the decline, anxiety, depression on the rise because of social media, internet, whatever else, a combination of factors, and then you add on COVID, and that just kind of is like the cherry on top, perfect recipe for people to be doing worse off and mental health going down. Are you so you're work from home for the most part, right? So I did mostly last year. Well, almost entirely last year. We were all working from home at my office. Now it's like they're really pushing for people's mental health, because obviously employees, like, if you have better mental health, the productivity is a lot better. The old capitalist lack.
right. That's too bad. That's like the only reason they're trying to improve mental health is like productivity's down. Let's
we got to pump those
happier.
numbers up. So like I now. I can go into the office whenever I want, and it's pretty sweet. I actually lucked out and got a parking pass out of it, like, just because there's nobody parking there. So there's some positives out of it. But so my boss says like he is totally fine with people going in whenever, because like he works from the office like all the time. Like he's in every day. So
right.
So but other than that, like we usually have like 200 plus people at my office across 3 floors, and I would say on average there's like maybe 10 to 15 people in now.
Wow.
So
that's
it's like
big, that's a massive difference. So how did you kind of luck out, get that parking pass and everything?
Well, so like we got offered to just like come back, like because they wanted to like practice like having socially distanced people in the office, where like they could, so like all like you can only use like half the desks now than we could have before, or maybe even a third or something, like a smaller amount. Right. So they wanted to, like, we're kind of like the test subjects, where like working in the bullpen, and like they call the bull, it's a stupid term, but working like in the area like where all the staff accountants work, it's like you have to wear a mask all the time, like even at your desk and stuff like that, and it's so it could be really annoying. But so they just wanted us to test it out, and then to get the parking pass, basically I just went to reception. I was like, "There's nobody down there. Can I please have
you
a
might as well empty
like,
parking lot."
Yeah, so it's free. Like usually you have to pay for a pass if you're not like a manager.
Yeah.
So
not bad then. One good thing going on at least these days, free parking.
Yeah.
But what I'm kind of worried about is like if this trend kind of continues even after COVID's done, because I know I've heard a lot of the government was kind of planning on their workers working from home anyway, and kind of going and leaving the office, and that is going to kind of further the isolation problem. But let's say that is the case, and maybe people do start to work from home more often, and that's just the way it is. You're going to be a little bit more isolated if all you're focusing on is your job, and then maybe people are going to have to turn to their own kind of coping mechanisms, and then maybe be sure to reach out to other people, because they're not going to get that social connection through work anymore. So it's almost going to be, you're going to have to look for other areas to get what you need for your mental health. And coping mechanisms, like, what do you find? Because obviously we mentioned substance abuse, and to me that is a coping mechanism. Have you personally, like, coping mechanisms? What do you find helpful when you're feeling down or maybe anxious, depressed, whatever it is?
Oh, well, damn. I mean, yeah, I definitely have been. The substance abuse has been a lot worse, really. Like, I've been drinking a lot more since the COVID started. Definitely last year. I've tried to tone it down a lot, but I've even noticed this, like, with a lot of my friends too at work. Like, they're saying, like, you know, we go out to. We're now a couple times we've been out to, like, restaurants, like, COVID safe and everything, obviously, but we've been talking, like, it's been nice to see people, obviously, for so long. So people, like, they have mentioned, like, damn, like, have you guys been, like, drinking a lot?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, yeah, man, like, it sucks. Like, I mean, it's like, it's so weird, because, like, you just, like, once you get really into it and your body starts to, like, get accustomed to, like, craving that type of, like the substance, like alcohol or cigarettes or any other type of substances, and then you just, like, then you start to get anxious because your body's craving it, right? So that's just, like, it's a horrible pattern and cycle. So
it's that habit cycle. Did you find it a little bit, like, not nice to hear, but in somewhat a bit of a relief to know that, okay, it's not just me? Like, you see there's massive lines at, like, the LCBO. You talk to these people, and everybody's going through a similar thing. So does that give you maybe a little sense of, like, okay, like, it's not just me. It's not so isolated. It's like a shared thing.
Yeah. Like, it's definitely comforting to know that, like, you're not the only one that's going through it. It sucks to say. It's like, you know,
like, you don't want them to be going through it as well, but it's like, yeah, it would be far worse if you were, like, let's say, the only person in Ottawa that was feeling like that. That would, I would imagine, be, like, terrifying. Like, you'd be wondering, like, a lot more, like, what's up with me, because no one else is like this. But there are so many people, and it's been on the rise for a while now.
No, just an aside, thinking about being the only, that reminds me of that, you know, that Sam Harris thing where he talks about it's that story that he talks about in, like, his very first he has a you know, you have the app, right? The Waking Up app. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I know. I love that app.
You know, I haven't used it in a while. I'm still paying for it though, so I got some hope that I'll eventually. But God, I'm pissed that I can't remember the name of it's, like, a really old story about how this, like, really prosperous town or village is, like, everyone's really happy, but then and everyone's really happy and successful, and it's like what's the opposite of a dystopia? Like, it's like I don't know, I can't remember, but everyone's just like, it's like a really good society, but it's the backlash or the outcome of that is because the small group of people are really impoverished and really, like, just live horrible lives, like they're, like, locked in these rooms or something. It's like it's like an allegory. It's not like a real it never actually happened, but it's like. And it's like I think Sam Harris brought up, like, the morality around it. Like, should you allow a small group of people to suffer if it results in the outcome of, like, the greater good? You know,
right?
Like, I don't know. I was just thinking about that, like, when you brought up that.
Yeah, no, it is interesting and kind of relates, just because if there's a small minority of people that are horribly suffering because of COVID or whatever it is, whatever this scenario, but most people are fine. Do you adjust the society to kind of help those people? Yeah. And I don't know. I guess, I don't know what he ended up saying there, Sam Harris, about it. Pretty complicated situation. Yeah. But you mentioned the craving, and I was recently reading this book called The Power of Habit, and that really reminded me of, like, when they're teaching or, like, they're talking about what creates a habit and what, like, the habit loop is. There's always a craving involved in that. Like, there's going to be some certain cue. Let's say it's you're, like, I don't know, by yourself and starting to feel depressed or anxious or whatever, and that feeling might be a cue that leads to a craving, and the craving could be a craving for alcohol or something. But they were saying that the way to break those habit loops is kind of to try to identify what is the cue and what is the reward that I'm looking for, and then you replace the routine. So for that example, the cue would be you feeling emotionally not that great. You're feeling anxious, depressed, and you're like, all right, let's try to fix this, and then you go for whatever reward. And in the case of alcohol, if you've been drinking it a lot, that's probably like a learned association that you will get a reward, and that's where the craving comes in, because you know the alcohol is going to give you that reward. So as soon as the cue comes into play and you're feeling bad, you start to crave it. But they're saying that you can't necessarily get rid of the cue. Like, you can't just not feel bad anymore. So you're still going to have the cue, but you want to try to replace the routine, which for this case is drinking alcohol, with some other routine that provides you with maybe like a similar reward, which is hard. Like alcohol, people drink it obviously for like a reason. Like it makes you feel, it reduces anxiety. It makes you feel like open to conversations. It does a lot for you. It's hard to match that with some other thing.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if, like, obviously there are people who have been alcoholics and they've recovered, and maybe they have their own things. I haven't researched it too much, but like, have you found could think of any maybe potential replacements, or like something that could maybe reduce the anxiety, or also actually what do you find when you're drinking? Do you think is the cue? Like, is it, because I'm speaking for me personally, maybe like sometimes if I was drinking, I might want to relieve some anxiety. Yeah. But maybe that's not the case for everybody. Like, what do you think the cue is, and maybe what's the reward? What are you trying to get out of the alcohol?
Yeah, I think like I think that's definitely true. Like, that you do get like these emotional cues that like kind of trigger it and make you crave. And like me personally, it's usually like I'm pretty anxious and overwhelmed with like it's because of work. Like I'm pretty busy at my job, so like I'm quite often stressed and have a lot going on, and a lot like going on in my head, like stuff to get done, things I need to do by certain deadlines and stuff like that. So like if I finish the day and I'm still like completely overwhelmed, that's, I think, is what my cue is. It's like just like a busy mind is the type thing. Yeah. So, and it is a coping mechanism, obviously, but it's not a healthy coping mechanism. So, yeah, actually, I had a really good conversation with my therapist a couple weeks ago about certain things that you can do to, like, instead of drinking, like other actions and stuff like that. So I've had issues with depression and anxiety, and I've noticed that for anxiety or for depression, usually when I'm like really low, the best thing when you get like super down, the best thing to do is just to get active and do something. Right. And that's another thing that COVID's really impacted. Like, I used to go to the gym a lot, and it would help me out after like a day of work and stuff like that. And just to get out, just getting active is like really, really good for your mental health. Right. So that's been a shitty impact of this whole thing. For anxiety, like, if it's been really bad, sometimes I've just had to shut down and like sleep. But you can't get into like that too much, because sometimes that could be a little unhealthy too if you're sleeping too much, or if you're like not, I don't want to say like wasting time, but it's like at some point, like it's not healthy to be in bed all day. You know what I mean? No, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough though, because you just feel so overwhelmed that you literally like don't know what to do.
Yeah, you just like freeze.
You just want to be asleep, because that's like, just get away from, like, you almost want like an off switch type of thing.
Exactly.
I just want to be asleep, get away from all this. Have you found, because like you're obviously pretty like open to talk about your personal experiences with depression and anxiety, have you found that has kind of changed throughout time? Like, there might have been certain periods where it was a little bit more like you would hide it, or not really be so super willing to like talk about it, and what do you think that was, like, just age, or because it's the culture, or what?
I think it's a good mix of like age, culture, like the stigma around mental health issues and stuff like that. Like, it's kind of just blowing up now, because I mean, honestly, there's a lot of like pros and cons with social media. I think now, like, obviously it has driven a lot of like people becoming depressed, I think, because either they're seeing these lifestyles that like they really want to live, and they think that it's like a real lifestyle, even though it's like the people, it's like
so much fake
it's
stuff.
so like fabricated.
Yeah.
But like it's also been really good because now people are expressing themselves a lot more online, and they can start conversations like this, right? Like we're actually talking about you know, the way that we feel. And like I think I definitely wasn't as open as I used to be about my mental health, just because I did feel like I felt like I would be judged on it as and I think that comes with age too. I think like just when you're younger, you're a lot more self-conscious about what people think of you and stuff like that. So I think like growing up a bit, you realize like, you know, we're all human beings. We're all not, well, we're hopefully not as nasty as we think everyone is to each other. But so like growing up a bit helped, and then seeing other people struggle and talking about, and then obviously like I've been going to therapy for a while, and that has really helped. Like just being open with just one single person, just talking to them for like an hour, like once or twice a month or something like that. It's like super helpful.
Yeah, I feel like opening up the conversation definitely helps, because I feel like it'd be much more of a challenging scenario to overcome if I think it comes back to like what we were saying before, but just knowing that there's other people out there, because it does feel so much harder when it's just you. And then if you know and you hear other people talking about it, and you're like, oh, I relate to that, like I had that same struggle, and then maybe they're further along in whatever progress, and they say some advice that you hadn't heard of, or you recommend that you've gotten a lot of benefits from going to a therapist. Maybe somebody was on the edge and they're like, I don't know about therapy, but then they hear you talk about it, and now they're far more open to doing that. And you mentioned maybe earlier on there was maybe more judgment around the whole thing, and I was kind of wondering, obviously with the substance like drinking and stuff like that, it can get other people involved. Like other people are involved, whether like you drink and maybe while you're drunk you end up talking to other people, and I'm wondering, other people, let's say their intentions are to help you, do you find that sometimes they might actually be counterproductive because they add on some additional judgment and additional shame to a problem, which is actually just a coping mechanism that maybe could, let's say you might even actually be drinking when you're feeling a high level of shame, and then as a result you drink and then someone shames you for it, and now you're just doubling down on the same thing. I mean that's definitely a possibility, and I mean I feel like I've probably experienced that in the past, honestly. Like the issue is too, like it's not just like, and maybe the person does have like good intentions too, like it's like that's another big some
thing.
People might just not know how to navigate it. Like they just don't understand,
or they just don't know how to communicate it effectively, right? Like communication is so important, man. Like just it's the small little things, like just the way you say things or the way you talk about things or be open to someone, it's like it can impact somebody so much, just the way that you talk or the tone or the, you know, the body language communication wise, like that actually has a huge effect on just people's perception of what you're trying to, you know, communicate to them, right? So
most of the communications, a lot of it's nonverbal, and that's kind of what sucks too today about being like social media being so popular, and a lot of communication, you're at home, can't go outside because of COVID, so you're just texting. And me personally, I'm not a big fan of texting, just because of that. It's up to interpretations, and it's just, I don't know, it's just not as nice. So
because like
definitely,
like in conversations like this, we can understand what tones we're doing. Like if we're joking around, making like a sarcastic comment over text, you have no idea like what they mean, like tone wise. You know, if someone says something, it's like you can just completely misinterpret what they're trying to get across, and it could just be like, wow, I hate this. You know? It
definitely could get messy. I know technology, it's obviously not all bad. Like there's FaceTime that could like save you in scenarios where you can't see people.
That's something that's definitely blown up too in COVID, which is awesome. I love it. I used to hate FaceTime just because I thought I looked like shit. Whenever I'm on my camera phone. But I've just now whenever I want to talk to a buddy or something, I'll just FaceTime. Like it's just so much nicer and a more effective way to just, you know, actually communicate, like talk to somebody, you know.
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned for like you find work is one of the things that leads you to be feeling overwhelmed a lot. And I was just wondering, like, do you think there's certain scenarios that are just too overwhelming that require some sort of coping mechanism, or it would be possible for you to I guess respond differently to the work and not feel as though you want to take it out on, it might not even have to be alcohol, but in your case, let's say your coping mechanism is alcohol. Do you think there always has to be some sort of coping mechanism when there's that level of like overwhelming stress, or there could be a scenario that you don't really need anything?
You think like sorry, I'm just trying to think like what. So like, are you saying like, would another option be like reducing work or something like that? Is that what you're saying, or like?
Well, I'm just wondering if for your strategy to maybe not drink so much after going to work for a long time,
okay, yeah,
is to replace it with something else.
Yeah.
Or if there would ever be a case where you actually don't need to replace it and you just take out the coping mechanism from the equation. Do you think that's possible, or it'd be more likely to have a replacement?
That's a good question. I mean, it's definitely, I'm again not an expert on anything, you know, we're just riffing here, but like I don't know if like, yeah, like maybe it could be possible just to completely eliminate it. But then like, would your body crave some type of like other, you know, sense of euphoria in the form of like, you know, exercise or like, or reading, or that's another thing. That's a great thing that I actually have done as an alternative, not as, because sometimes I do drink while I'm doing it, but I've been listening to a ton of audiobooks.
Right.
Audiobooks are great because I tend to buy books, read like the first couple chapters, and then I just stop reading them. Like it's so annoying. But like now audiobooks, it's like, cause you can do other stuff like cleaning, doing laundry and cleaning and stuff. Best way to cope if you don't want to have a drink.
Right.
It's I don't know, just doing chores and stuff
room.
Like that. Yeah, no, it's honestly it's a really good alternative. And then you can pump up podcasts or listen to an audiobook while you're doing it, so you feel it's a great way to
audiobooks are nice. I haven't listened to too many, but podcasts, I feel like similar idea.
Yeah,
absolutely. You're just learning something or enjoying whatever. Yeah, I'll do that a lot while I'm cooking, just because it's, you can't read while you're cooking. But reading is one thing that I've picked up recently. I don't know if you remember me, like back in you probably didn't know like what I was doing and stuff. But like I used to never read. I read probably like one book.
Were you illiterate?
Yeah, it might have been. yeah. But I figured it out recently, I guess. So I overcame illiteracy. So
it might have been something that I thought about like back in the day, like, oh, Ollie doesn't read. Yeah. But that's good that you picked it up though, because it's really good.
Yeah, I read probably like 2 books, maybe besides the one you have to read for school. Yeah. And even those, I would read maybe first couple chapters like you did for the books you were saying.
Yeah.
So just whatever you have to do to pass a couple essays.
Spark notes it, then you're good. Like just get the remaining.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But books has been something that I feel like has changed my life quite a bit. Like I almost feel like before there was like an untapped resource that it was a shame that I wasn't taking advantage of. Because there's a lot you can learn about, and like, for this example, you might even be able to find one book on substance abuse could completely change the way you deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, it's magic, really. Like besides like for you trying to overcome substance abuse, the therapist you said help, are there any other maybe tools, podcasts, or whatever it is that you found helpful?
Well, now this is probably not a resource that everybody could get, because I take medication for depression and anxiety, and then also I take this one medication. Well, actually, it's not a bad idea. I actually found out about it on CBC Radio. Like, they were talking about alcoholism and people's issues with the physical cravings of it and how it overwhelms them. Yeah. So this one medication that I got my doctor to prescribe me is called naltrexone. Yeah. And what it essentially does is like, it doesn't like completely eliminate cravings, but so a lot of the issues I've had in the past with substance abuse is I'm in a bad mood, I'll start drinking, and then I overdo it and I get super like wasted. Like I'll just like completely, because I like, there's no, like I've heard in the past, like through therapy and stuff, where it's like you hit a limit where it's like, that's too much in your system. This is like literally poisoning you right now. Like this is unhealthy, and it's like really bad for your body, and it's putting your mental state in like blackout mode or whatever, where you just go off the rails and you're insane. basically like insane. But so what naltrexone does is it kind of, I don't know, messes with the chemicals in your brain a bit, where like the craving, or like, I don't know all the chemicals, and again, you know, I'm not an expert, but like it kind of limits that when it's like it blocks some chemicals at some point. So you can drink a little bit, and then you don't really feel the cravings to the point where you need it to go overboard. So it's been pretty helpful in the past. Yeah. So I'm a big advocate for that one.
Do you find too that like it's almost a slippery slope with the alcohol, like where you might have one drink and then that leads to many more, or
yeah, absolutely. Like that's just like, often like and maybe that's just like a learned habit, because like I'm like I've had horrible substance abuse problems in my family, not like my parents, but like their parents, and apparently like a long lineage of family members have all died pretty young from pretty unhealthy lifestyles and stuff like that, just like really overdoing it with stuff like that. So and then like I grew up, like my dad, British guy, he has a beer every single night, just one or two beers every night. He nurses them. He drinks like a beer every slowly? 2 hours. Like it's insane. I always look at it, he just like leaves them around tables and stuff, like it's like he's like reading the paper or something. And there's just like a beer, like I'm like, Dad, do you want your beer? Like it's over there. And he's like, no, I don't need it. Like, it's really weird.
I find it fascinating, like how habits could be developed, and how some of them are so hard to pinpoint. Like you might not even be realized that the habits are kicking in. Like cues will pop up that'll trigger you to want to go drink or whatever it is, and then halfway through, while you're already like drinking, you realize, oh shit, like the habit got me. Like I fell for the cue in a way.
That's me on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock, like, or 4 or 5 o'clock. It's like, well, it's 5 o'clock, so it's Friday, it's the weekend. It's like, well, I'm actually going to be working every day this weekend, so I probably shouldn't be doing this, but you know, it's just the mindset around it's the weekend, you can let loose now. That's kind of like the quick little, it's a little subconscious planted back there deep in my brain that, you know.
There's so many cues you could get, like for any one habit, really. Like for drinking, you could have, you come home from work, that's one cue. You're feeling anxious, that's another cue. It could be a specific person too, even like they show up, they're like, oh, what's up? And you're like, where are the pints? Like they just like
like a buddy. You're like, oh well, he's in town, I gotta have a few with him, you know, like
and that's part of it too, is like sometimes it's hard to kind of get over these habits if it's so much ingrained in your typical, like your lifestyle, your lifestyle, even like personality wise, like you maybe start to identify with it of like, oh, this is what I do, and these are the typical things that I like to do. This is it, and you find that like an influence or something that'd be, it's hard, obviously, especially with the being influenced by other people to drink, because you might see them as an influence that's worsening your habit of drinking. But that's not an easy thing to let go of, because
like the social,
because they're your friends or whatever, and obviously maybe at some points you have to weigh the pros and cons or whatever. But like, is that something you thought about? Or
well, it's like the issue is, I mean, for me, and it brings in the point where it's like, how can other people do it so well and I can't, you know? Like it's like it kind of, and it's just because like I have issues with, like, I've had mental health issues, and it's like, it sucks, but it's just like, you got to really weigh the pros and cons, like, of if this social experience is worth it for you, where you could you know, end up in a bad situation because of it, but also if you don't put yourself in that situation at all, then you're missing out on, you know, the social aspect of it, where you want to be with your friends, you know, you want to hang out and stuff like that. So
because you skip out on that, and then now you're by yourself, and maybe you feel more depressed.
Exactly, and now you're just depressed by yourself.
It's
but then when complicated. Then when you go overboard, though, then you do stupid stuff, and you know, you ruin relationships and stuff like that with people. So that's, you know, there's a lot of moving parts, and life.
And that's the thing, I don't think there's one clear, oh, that'll be great. It's like there's risks at every decision, every path. Like it's not like, oh, if I stop hanging out with those people, I'll drink less, but that'll be maybe better in some ways, worse in other ways. So you definitely can't win them all.
No.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing to deal with, like, especially giving up on things that have maybe been you forever. Like, if somebody had been drinking for a long time, it's really hard to give it up. And what I've heard from looking into the, like, Alcoholics Anonymous is that they try to take advantage of putting you into a new group of people, where now you're all have something in common, and you're all friends with each other. Well, maybe not right away, but like you get to know them, and now they're all like-minded people, and they're trying to do something else. Because it almost brings me back to the idea I've talked about before, about like how you basically become the people, or you're heavily influenced at least by the 5 people. I don't know why it's 5, but let's say that's what like the saying is, at least. Yeah, it's like the 5 people in your life. You become like essentially the sum of what they all are.
Interesting.
So if you move to a different group of people that all of them are not drinking and doing different things, that at least Alcoholics Anonymous, which works, at least has a pretty high success rate, it seems. They take advantage of that. And do you think that would be something that you'd be willing to do, or do you think that's not even an appropriate step for where you're at? Like, obviously you don't know I don't know the severity or anything. I just know that's
I mean, it's definitely gotten to a point in the past where I've considered like doing, and I've been to AA meetings. Well, most of the times I've been supporting other people, but like I haven't been like by myself ever.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, I think it's more about, I definitely have gone overboard myself personally, but I don't think I need, and this could just be me being in denial, but I don't think I need to get to the point where like I'm spending every single night at an AA meeting. Like, I think what's really helped with me is kind of branching out and getting in more situations with like people that are, just like, I'm not trying to bash any of my friends, but like, just be a little more positive and stuff like that. Like, there's definitely a group of friends that I've kind of like moved towards that are like a lot more positive, and just like it's not always about like drinking or anything like that. So it's like, it's really nice to to kind of diversify your portfolio in terms of
a little reference to a previous podcast there. You like that one?
That was great.
I thought the like accounting finance guys would like that one.
No, that was a big ticket for me, man. And let me tell you, brother, I gotta say, you guys have been a treat to listen to every single Monday.
Yeah,
except for that one where you left me hanging.
Which one?
Or you didn't release a pot, you skipped a week or something like that.
Oh right, yeah, we tried actually.
I kind of wanted to ask you. We don't have. You can cut this out or something. I don't know.
No, I talked about that one a little bit in the depression one, about like how we tried to do it.
Yeah, I just want to know more about like what happened.
Oh,
like,
why it didn't turn out.
Yeah,
well.
like, if you don't have to get into it, like if
it was honestly just like we sat down, started talking, and especially because we were talking about depression, it was more of like, I guess, more of one that we were trying to be a little bit more cautious with.
Yeah.
And there were times where, I don't know, you start talking about something and then you realize, oh, maybe I don't have like the qualifications to talk about this confidently.
Yeah.
And then you start doing that a little bit, and then just the vibe was off a little bit, so we just canceled it.
I get that. Yeah, I get that.
And yeah, that's
no issue with me. It's just you left me hanging on a Monday.
Yeah. Well, okay, we'll try to be consistent, pulling out every week.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, at least I'm enjoying doing them. And you mentioned kind of just, it doesn't necessarily have to be AA, like an organized or a place. It could just be hanging out with certain friends, but that's a supplement for AA, where it's not like an organized thing. It's not all like whatever, and you get the same benefits essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like even like you with the Muay Thai gym, like I'm sure, like that's like a new environment too, like a social environment where you are with people, and instead of drinking, you guys are beating the shit out of each other. That's
it's destructive in a different way, but
a
little bit more productive.
Up, though. Yeah, I'm seeing the cauliflower ear growing on your ears.
Yeah, oh shit, I gotta get that drained. Get that fixed. No, I haven't even done much hard sparring, but I really do like the Muay Thai. Shout out to Tina Takahashi Dojo.
Hell yeah.
Shout out to the McFaddens.
Gotta love them.
Yeah, no, it's good, and it's a similar thing. Probably, it's weird to compare it to AA, but like I was just gonna say,
yeah,
like it provides you with like that camaraderie, or like you're all in it together. And I was mentioning it before we started recording about just how you might feel like quitting, or maybe you're like in a tough moment where like you're exhausted and you're like, oh man, I gotta quit. But then you see everybody else around you. Maybe one of the other people at the dojo is like, come on, man, you got this.
Mm-hmm.
Give you a little positive boost, and you keep going. Maybe as a comparison, you're like at Alcoholics Anonymous, and yeah, you're having a tough day, really stressed out, but the camaraderie of the environment helps you move on, or maybe like somebody talks you through something, and that's all it takes for you to not go drink and you go do something else.
Yeah.
It's it's definitely an amazing benefit to try to get like-minded people, or at least people that are what you want to be, what you want your mindset to be. Maybe you're not there yet, but you're like, I would like for that to be there.
That
and
type
then you
of support and stuff. Or that like end goal is like you can visualize it literally in a person, like you can see them, like that's the person that I want to be like, but
right
yeah. Well,
yeah, and one thing that I learned, I was reading about, was that a lot of the time for breaking habits, what it comes down to is that you might pick something else up that you really, really enjoy. So like, let's say for your case, maybe you pick up running or whatever it is. Who knows what you want to do? Kayaking. I don't know, whatever you're into.
Kayaking.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah. Biking. Who knows what it is? Bowling. Whatever you want to do. But like, it's something that you really enjoy, and it becomes like a meaningful thing for you to do. And it provides you with a lot of value, and it provides you with the rewards that might be, you might be seeking for within the alcohol. So you're getting the rewards within this, but the thing is, for you to do the running, you can't really be drinking a lot. So it's almost like it would be worse to sacrifice the quality of your run by drinking than it would be to just drink in the first place.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Like,
I think I get what you're saying. Like, the physical act of drinking actually has a major impact on running. Like,
it'll ruin the thing that you care so much about. Like, let's say you do care so much about running. You're like, they don't work together. Like, I know I no longer can drink because that's gonna ruin my dream of being a runner, or being for you, maybe bowling, like I said, whatever it is.
Yeah,
really.
that's my dream.
Yeah. I mean, bowling you probably could do while drinking.
Who do you think you are? I am.
Yeah. Like, bowling you probably could do while drinking, to be fair, but
of course.
Like something, I guess, more physically demanding, or maybe it's just like you don't want to be hungover because you want to be mentally sharp for whatever.
That's
maybe it's an
intellectual
thing and not necessarily a physical thing. Whatever it is, though, you can't drink in order to perform at your best, and that you would hate to see, and that hate trumps the craving for the drink
to do it. Yeah. That's another thing too, is there's consequences of some of these things, right? Like the outcomes that are a result of like some habits that are maybe bad for your health, your mental health, and your physical health. It's like sometimes like if I have an 8 a.m. meeting, I gotta get shit done for it. Like, I gotta be prepared. I gotta have all my stuff ready for it. Like, I'm trying to go to bed super early. So I'm not getting, I'm not having a couple of beers or listening to a not stupid podcast, but like not wasting my time before it, right? And like, I'm trying to get in like the best mental state before that. So because the feeling of performing well in my job, like getting something done and having like a client or like my boss like actually provide like really good feedback, that feeling is like way above any other like drinking or anything like that that I could ever experience. So like, I think that's like the thing is, like, you become you kind of, when you're really getting into like maybe like a depressive mode or anxious mode or substance abuse, and like to cope, you kind of, the worst things always happen when you forget what's happened in the past. Like because you obviously you don't forget anything like that's ever happened, but if you just like, sometimes it's just, if it's not on your mind, then you just like completely gloss over it, and then it just happens again, right? And so that's like,
you just go into like automatic mode where like the, I guess, subconscious habits just start to go, and you're not even paying attention. Like we were saying before, next thing you know, you're like 2 pints down and you're like, oh shit, how did we get here?
Yeah, you
And
can't let your guard down is essentially what it means.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you.
And you find, like, I personally see a good solution to catch yourself when the cue happens, and then maybe try to replace it with something else, or whatever the solution would be, is that, like, the mindfulness stuff, like using that Sam Harris app that we mentioned. Have you found, like, have you found any benefits from the time that you had done that app? Or,
Oh, 100%. It was awesome. Like there was like that starter thing. So yeah, I really got to get back into it, man. But I was just like, when did you introduce it to me? A while ago. It wasn't, well, maybe last year. I think it might have been the year before. It might have been 2019 when you first, I think it was after we had that Hawaii trip.
Right.
But yeah, so like right after that, I remember like every single morning I would be on the bus, and it was a bit of a tough environment sometimes. I'd wake up earlier and do it in my like living room or something, on a couch, like in a comfortable environment. But it was possible to do it on the bus as well, where I would just be sitting there, and I would go through the I guess what you call them, educational
the lessons.
Lessons. So you go through the lessons, and like it would totally just clear my head, get me in a great space on that 30-minute bus ride to work, or 45-minute or whatever. And then it honestly improved my mental health, like at least my positivity, by quite a bit for sure. Like it was really, really definitely beneficial.
It's like amazing, honestly. And the thing that I don't like is that if I heard about meditation, and I'm sure some people might hear it and have the same reaction I did when I like was younger, I'd be like, I don't know why. Maybe it was just me. You tell me if you felt like this too. But like, if I heard meditation, I would have just assumed it was something like, I don't know, not like legit. It was like kind of phony. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, there's all these things like that. You're like, what's that type of not real medicine or whatever? Like other substitutes,
it's like pseudo medicine.
Yeah, like stuff like that, where it's like it's all these crazy. It's like they don't really help you at all or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like some things you got to take with a grain of salt, but meditation is like, I think it's pretty proven that it's quite good for your mental health, and then resultantly turns into physical health too, because if your mental health is good, then you're a lot more healthy in other aspects of your life too. So.
Yeah, it's such a domino effect, and that's why for me personally, when I've been like feeling depressed or whatever, I get into that. I start to think about how many things this is now affecting in the rest of my life, and it sucks that it can have such a big impact where now you're depressed, and maybe now you're not performing as well at work, and maybe now you're drinking more, and now you feel more ashamed about that. And it's just like, that's what I guess why they always say you spiral when stuff like that happens.
Wow, I never thought of that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because next thing you know, you're doing a bunch of other things that you wish you hadn't done.
Really harmful lifestyle. Yeah, like it's a horrible cycle and pattern.
Yeah.
And then some people, and it sucks to say, some people do really take it to the next level, where they start doing like really harmful drugs and stuff that like completely push you over the edge, and like ruin your lifestyle entirely, because it's just so overwhelming, and like it just consumes your lifestyle basically. So that's to the point where that's where you should go get help. Like,
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And
what I find frustrating sometimes is that people might see somebody in that scenario, and still, it's probably better now these days, but you might still get some people that are looking at it as like a choice in a way, like, why are they choosing to do all those drugs? It's like, do you really think someone wants to do that?
Like, wants to live like the way that, like that? No, like, that there's definitely still a lot of people that like don't really understand what like substance abuse and addiction and all that like really stems from, like how it stems from like mental health issues, or like it's a lot of like homeless people and stuff. It's because like they're like have issues with schizophrenia or like severe depression, and they just can't really function, and then they go overboard, like just by, and it's like it's probably it stems from maybe the environments they were raised in, where they didn't have access to like we're talking like have access to therapy. Like not everybody has access to therapy, right? Like it's like I'm very privileged and lucky to have this lifestyle, but like some people don't have those types of resources, and it really pisses me off when people are like, "Whoa, why are you choosing? It's your choice." It's self-inflicted is the thing that I hate to hear. It's like, okay, but
I feel like some of that is a reaction because people want to, maybe not all, some might just be complete confusion, but I think some of it at least might be a reaction because they want to feel better about themselves, and it's maybe like
they're stronger.
A sense of superiority, because if they were just choosing it, you're like, oh no, I didn't choose it though, so that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
And they might be more kind of stubborn to keep believing that because it makes them feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
And that obviously might not be the case. Some people might just genuinely be confused about the whole situation.
Yeah, just be ignorant, or like not. Well, I'm not saying like ignorant in a bad way, but like actually just be naive on the whole scenario, like not know the whole picture, like what could be a result of it.
Yeah, because it seems to me like addiction is almost it's clearly like a secondary. It's like a secondary problem that comes from some other original problem.
Absolutely,
some other mental health thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we're saying, it's a coping mechanism, so you're doing it for some reason. And yeah, it's definitely a shame that people would look at it and not totally see that, and because the problem is, if they don't totally see that, their reaction towards you is going to be completely different, and it might be one that actually is negative versus if they did kind of see where you're coming from and see that it's more of a coping mechanism, then the reaction might be more in like empathetic and trying to help.
Exactly.
So like we were saying at the beginning, spreading the word is for sure good for that reason, because if you understand more about it and you see somebody drinking all the time or doing some other substance, you're gonna maybe look at them as like, okay, what's the real problem here? There's obviously the secondary problem of now they're drinking, but what was the thing that started it all, or what? Where's this stemming from?
I think it opens up a lot more like compassion in people when they kind of understand the bigger picture, like of what the issue is overall.
Yeah.
So and again, like this is great, like just opening up dialogue and conversations about it, so people talk about their feelings. That's what people. I'm not going to say COVID's been great, but one big thing that's come out of it is people are a lot more open about, their mental health and stuff.
Yeah, so there's always some sort of positive spin.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's almost like some ways like a skill, kind of, where you just, at least you try immediately to try to look for what's the positive here. And then like with COVID, like you're saying, there's that positive is people have started to talk about this stuff. And, that's definitely a beneficial thing. I know I'm hesitant to talk about this, but I did hear that there's like that whole the Royals thing with Meghan and Harry, where like that it just reminded me, because maybe right off the bat it's a negative thing, this whole thing's a disaster, but it could potentially lead to opening up the conversation, like we're saying, she opened up the conversation about her mental health.
Absolutely.
And maybe that's going to be something better off in the end it'll be better.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's something I've been we don't have to get into. I've been following that very closely.
yeah.
Team Meghan, dog.
Yeah.
Fuck the Royals, pardon my French, but yeah.
I haven't looked into it too much. The royal stuff kind of confuses me. I've never looked into it too much, so I don't really understand who they are, like what's going on.
Any real British person doesn't give a shit about like the royals. Like who cares? It's such like an archaic. Just they don't do anything. They don't do anything.
It reminds me in some ways to like the Kardashians.
Yeah, no, it's true. They're
famous because they're famous.
Yeah,
and it's just like, okay, but what are they doing?
Yeah,
and I've heard it's slightly different, because I did bring that up to my sister, and she's like, no, like they do a lot of stuff for charity and all this stuff.
Well, yeah,
but, like,
I guess, but
but it still reminds me of like it still reminds me of like I don't know, like a big drama show almost.
Yeah,
like,
no, absolutely. I mean, obviously they held a lot more power before, when they, the sun never set on the British Isle, when they, literally like that was a literal thing. Like the sun never set anywhere in the world that they owned. Oh, okay. They owned enough, like everything in the world that like the sun wouldn't, like, you know what I mean? Like that. Does that make sense? Anyway,
no, I kind of get it. We could dive into the British
British colonialism and that's for another day, another topic.
A bit of your background there, just British guy.
Yeah,
but yeah, with you said it's kind of like it might be like a family thing too, and that's an interesting thing, is where you get into the genetics of it all. Because I know for like I've heard for weed, certain people are far more prone to developing I don't know, schizophrenia and
Yep.
maybe other mental
Health issues. Yep.
But some people not at all. They don't seem to be affected at all. And I'm assuming it's a similar situation with alcohol. I've at least heard with alcohol that some people don't get as many benefits from the alcohol. Like they'll drink and they're not even that much less anxious. But there's some people that do it and they get significant benefits, and it's those people that are far more prone to becoming alcoholic because it's great for them. And for some people,
it's like, why wouldn't you do it?
I've known some people that like they don't seem to be too affected. Like them when they're drunk and then when they're sober, it's like they're not even really that different.
Yeah.
But you can see some people that clearly are getting like some great rewards out of it, and those people, have a higher tendency.
I think it's definitely okay, again, not an expert, but I'm fairly certain I've read in the past that it is genetic. Like there are genes that you develop that impact the way that these chemicals are released in your brain when affected by different things like substances and stuff like that. So, and it is basically just how it it's a genetic thing, and then it's also an environmental thing.
Because I guess that's one thing too, really. You could say, the genetics have been the same, but also maybe the environment has also been the same. So which one is it?
Yeah.
Hard to determine.
Yeah, it could be a mix of both, like it's, I think,
for me, genetics always would be like almost less, I wouldn't want to believe it quite as much, just because that feels like a less changeable thing. You know what I mean? It's like, my genetics are doing it.
Nothing I can do about it. No, exactly. It's true. Like you should, like that's not like the end all be all. Like you have the power to, live a better lifestyle if you, if you get help from people, or if you try and like learn to help yourself, and stuff like that. So it's not something where it's like, well, it runs my family, like issues with like heart attacks or something like that. That's something that's like it just runs in the family. Like that's just a horrible thing that might happen to you that you're more prone to. And I guess you just try to live a healthier lifestyle so you won't be impacted by that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I one thing on the substance abuse that I wanted to bring up is that it seems like sometimes significant events in people's life can actually lead them to then being addicted to certain substances. I've heard, for example, like let's say you even have like a knee surgery and then you get like a morphine drip at the hospital, and now you're addicted. I was wondering like what you think about that, and also for you, have you found like with your substance abuses, like where or when it started? Because obviously when you were like I can picture like when we were in like junior high school, elementary, we're not really like
we were just
we're not really going to the bars or anything.
Yeah, but we were getting into shit, that's for sure.
Yeah. Maybe earlier on than most, but
I think like me personally, and I kind of realized it when it was happening. But when I was a kid, like there was a time where I hung out with a crowd of people like that were older and who were also influenced by a different set of people, and like they lived lifestyles that was like, every weekend we'd go out drinking, or we'd do some other types of substances or something like that, just experiment. And then and then it actually negatively impacted a lot of people, and like it really like it set people on a pretty bad path. But so influence from other people was definitely a big thing, I think, when I was, because ever since I was a super self-conscious kid. I was really, really self-conscious as a young growing child. Like I was always really nervous around people like that I had never met before. And then so I think that developed into me being like like this group of friends. I love them. I haven't seen them in a while, but like that I used to hang out with in high school. They really like accepted me. I felt like when I like would hang out with them, like they were all really like, we all had a lot of fun and joked around, and I felt kind of like welcomed by them. So, and then that just turned into like, I kind of got influenced by their lifestyles, and then it turned into mine. So
I could see how that could happen. And I even for like, obviously for me too, alcohol was like tempting for that reason in high school, just like to relieve anxiety and stuff. And also just you'd see other people doing it, and you're especially influenced by older people, because you might look at them as like, oh, like
the cool
they're
kids.
The cool guys. So because I know that's something for alcohol especially, where it's in some ways maybe romanticized, where like you look at it as like, oh, that's cool, like there's like those hard guys, like I know I've heard like Johnny Cash like brought up before, where you're like, there's something that like appealing about, oh, like he's drinking all the time and like he's cool for that reason, which it sucks that you will have that because it'll draw you in.
Mm-hmm.
But there's definitely that, and especially when you're really like easily influenced in high school, that you'll see other kids doing that and be like, oh, that's cool, I'm gonna go do that too. And it probably persists even past high school, where like you just see people, maybe some celebrities that you're fans of, where they're doing it, and yeah, it makes you want to do it as well.
Yeah, and I think like I'm just kind of getting, I don't know, maybe overboard, but like I think what people are really admiring is just probably like the confidence in people that you know, like they think they're cool because like they can handle a drink, or they're wearing a nice suit, they're talking to pretty girls, but it's like, it's more like, no, this guy is just more self-aware, he's confident with himself. Sometimes they're assholes, sometimes you can be arrogant people that they're like, maybe this guy's like, sometimes you don't want to base your life off of some prick, but it's more about like it's something like people crave, like a lifestyle where they are confident with themselves and they are able to talk to anybody they want, right? And that's like a really learned behavior. Like you have to I don't know, like getting into social abilities as a child, like, is it learned or is it like natural, or you know what I mean? Like, is it like tabula rasa? You know, remember that stuff in philosophy, where it's like a blank slate? Or
I was usually late to philosophy class. I probably missed that one.
Yeah, so it's like, it's basically, that's the concept. I can't remember who came up with it. Nietzsche, maybe, I don't know, but
yeah, good lad.
Yeah, good dude. But it's like tabula rasa is like, it means blank slate in Latin or something. So it's like, when you're born, is like, are you a blank slate? Like you are only influenced by, like, you start at zero. And then you're just influenced by your environment and how you develop, or is it like it's already implanted into your, you know, your subconscious and brain from genetics, or you know, just, or the before life of God and his lovely
a bit
self.
Of I personally feel like it'd be like a bit of mix of nature, nurture.
Yeah,
and I always like to lean on the side that you can change it, just because.
Gives you more hope.
Yeah, it gives you more hope. And like, you want to believe that it can be something that you can change. And yeah, you mentioned just like the I don't know, being open to talk, and not feeling like self-conscious about it. And part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast was to like almost treat it as like a practice for that in some sense.
Yeah, no, and
where
I think
this is you say things, maybe you don't say it exactly how you wanted to say it, maybe you pronounce something a little bit off, but like, it's okay. Yeah, it's fine. You just say it, and it's a open conversation.
I think what people are scared of, and I think I think you're super brave for doing something like this, honestly, because like, people are really scared of judgment, you know, and like and it's like, just like the way that people like, oh, he has a podcast, like everybody has a podcast.
That's the thing too.
Like,
I would even think of like, I'm sure there's maybe comments like that, maybe not.
Who cares
but like,
about those people?
At the end of the day, I would realize one time where I was thinking, I'm like, oh, what if the people are thinking that? What if they're thinking this?
Fuck them.
And I just come home from work, and I'm like, it literally doesn't, like, nothing changes in my life. Like, you might think that, and
whatever makes you happy and comfortable with yourself, it's like, that's what you should be doing. And if it doesn't impact anyone, who cares what other people think, right? Like, it's like, you're just trying to build yourself. And I honestly, that's why I love this podcast. I have listened to every single one of them. You guys are a treat. The Lewises.
Well, you'll be a treat now for other people.
Yeah. No, but I think it's like opening up, and like the confidence to just be able to express yourself, right? Like, that's what it really stems down to.
Yeah, and I was reminded of this a little while ago of that there are people that you might look up to that maybe are drinking, but I feel like these days there's maybe other people that are open about it that you could look up to that maybe have dealt with substance abuse problems, and they're overcoming it, and those people you can look up to. Right off the top of my mind comes Theo Vaughn. I know you're a fan.
I knew
of him.
You were going to talk about
podcaster, comedian. I love that guy. But like, him and some of the other comedians, like what it seems like a lot of the comedians especially have dealt with like some substance problems. They're like unique characters, and that kind of in some ways seems to like go along with it. But yeah, you hear him talking about it completely openly, and he's got a very, very big audience. Yeah. And I'm sure that helps for sure. Like, and to see guys like him, like if you were personally dealing with some substance abuse stuff, but then you see him, a guy that you might look up to. I feel like that would provide you with some motivation to know that, like, oh, you can still be really funny, you can still be successful. Making the sacrifice to pass down alcohol won't really like change my life for the worse, because I feel like sometimes you might be concerned about what would happen if I did give up on the alcohol. I would maybe miss out on some of the social things. I wouldn't be as confident when I'm in these scenarios. But then you see a guy like him, it's almost just proof. Okay, you could do it. It's possible.
Yeah, it's a perfect example. It's like that's something that you can strive for, and not like it doesn't mean like, oh, I'm gonna be a famous comedian. It's like that's not the goal. The goal is just to be, happier. Like, and I love his podcast too, because he gets so deep, and he's just, the way he articulates it is hilarious. He's really funny, and he's just he's just really good at expressing.
Like a wide open book too.
Nothing's
off the table.
That's brave. That's so strong. Like just being completely open about, and not necessarily things that like you've done, but just more about like who you are, how you feel, and stuff like that. Like that's super cool, I think.
Yeah, no, I love Theo.
Yeah.
I want to buy his. I saw he had a new merch drop.
Yeah.
This isn't an advertisement for Theo's podcast or anything. But
yeah, no plugs.
You
gotta
sweaters.
cut his name. Just bleep his name out every single time we say.
yeah. Or maybe shout out to Theo. You're gonna sponsor the pod or something. Yeah. But or maybe Theo, you want to come on as a guest, have me on your podcast.
Why would he not want to come to Canada in March, right? Like this beautiful weather we're having. It's cold as hell right now. It was just
so tempting.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think this has been good. We've been going for a little over an hour now.
Damn, really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Flown by.
Yeah.
And in general, hours usually like goal. I don't know for exactly why. I just find good time to go for.
No, absolutely. So, I think it's a great time.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, man.
Been good to have you on. And,
this was great.
You can definitely come on for some other topics. I'm sure there's some good ones that we could do.
I'd love
maybe
to
elaborate on this or even whatever. Just
absolutely.
Whatever it is. But we'll shut it down for now.
All right.
Goodbye, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, guys.